Hello board gamers, it's me, Undead Viking, coming to you with another video review. If you listen to the most recent podcast that I am one of the three hosts of, Wooden Cubes and Iron Soldiers, you heard me reference the game that I am going to be reviewing today, and I'm really excited to do this review. This is one of those games that I kind of went into it a little bit blind, and I mean I read the rules and I got kind of a grasp of the game, and I was expecting it to be fun, but it turned out to be a lot more fun than I thought it would be. And the game today is Manhattan Project. Now, as you can probably guess, thematically, this game is about being in charge of a nation's nuclear weapons program. Theoretically, in the late 40s, 50s, and as you're slowly building up your nuclear power and trying to become the first person to have the bomb, if you will. Now, you might be thinking, okay, it's a Euro game. This is kind of a weird theme. Normally, with Euro games, you're thinking of a shipping company, or yet another game named after some strange Renaissance town, or some town in the Caribbean, Santa Cruz, Puerto Rico, things like that. And instead, yeah, I mean, the theme for this game is kind of a little bit off the wall. I mean, you'd expect a game about nuclear bombs to have a bunch of dice and a bunch of cool little figures and stuff like that, and that has nothing to do. That isn't even present in the game. But as I'm going to show you when I show you how you play the game, you're going to see that this is a very, very, very much Euro. It's got no dice, no nothing like that. And but in conjunction with that, it is a fantastic game. I don't know what's going to come out between now and the end of 2012, and what exactly I'm going to play between now and then. But right now, this is among the best games I've played all year long. So I'm going to show you how you play the game, and then in my conclusion, I'm going to tell you exactly why I feel like this is one of my absolute favorite games. So let's show you how you play the game. All right, let's do this. Okay, what you see in front of you here is the main board for Manhattan Project. And also, I can't see the whole thing, but you get these player boards, and you get one in each of the 5 colors. These are used to, as you build buildings, to place the buildings on your little tableau here. And there's this chart here to chart how many fighters and bombers you have. Now, you really don't need this because you aren't limited in the number of buildings that you can have. I mean, if you get more, you just place them offside. But it's kind of nice just to have this in front of you, and it does keep everything nice and neat. But if for whatever reason you didn't have this, you could keep track of your fighters and bombers using dice, and you could just have your cards in front of you. So I just show this to you and I'll reference it here in a little bit when I show you the fighters and bombers. But other than that, you don't really need this. So as I said, this is the main game board. On the board, there are several locations that you will be using, because this is a worker placement game. You'll be using those locations to place your workers to take those actions. And I'm going to explain those actions in turn. This is one of those interesting games that normally a lot of games play in a method that the first player switches. After everybody takes a turn, then it moves ahead, and everybody takes a turn, and so on and so forth. However, in this game, that doesn't happen, and I'll explain why. Because of the fact that normally in games of worker placement and things like that, and I shouldn't say normally, but in a lot of games, you have to do that so the first player doesn't have the advantage every single turn. In this game, if you're the first player, you get no bonus when you start, and every player after you gets either bonus money or a bonus worker. And so they offset the bonus of when you're the first player. You get all the choices available to you. But after that, the game becomes very strategic in the usage of your workers, and also the removing of your workers, a technique and a mechanic that I'll explain to you very shortly. Now, if you look at the board, you can see up here there is a long list of the different buildings. These are the starting buildings. These are the same. These first 6 are the same 6 starting buildings every single time you play. You draw one random card from this deck and add it to the last spot. I realize it's kind of far away and it's tough to see, but if you do, this is a sliding scale and it increases in the amount of money it costs to claim those buildings. And it starts off over here with 2 money, and then 3, 5, 7, 10, 14, and 20. Now, there is an action that you have to take a building, and that's this spot right there. That's construction. Construction is one of the rare spots on the board where any of your workers can be placed there to activate the location, and any number of people can use this spot for construction. Whereas you can see on other spots, like here's Airstrike and universities and so forth, you can see that there are a limited number of spots for your workers. And I'm just going to show you the workers are these. Aren't cardboard, but they're nice and thick, very nice. This is a laborer. This kind of bug-eyed guy is a scientist. And this cool dude in his orange hard hat is an engineer. So the actions, obviously, when you're placing, are fairly simple. You're just placing those in the locations of where you want to take your action. You'll notice under some of the spots, there will actually be like a requirement as far as what type of worker needs to be used. Like, say, design a bomb. You need to use both a scientist and an engineer in that location. So if you were going to activate that location, it would take both of that. So, and that's the design bomb action. If you notice here for the reactor and the enrichment plants, you'll notice there's a little scientist dude there, meaning that you have to use a scientist for that particular location. These factory location has a slash mark, that means an engineer or a scientist can be used in that spot. So you can see there are limitations to the locations as well. Now, I'm going to show you, as I was going to say, these are like the buildings that you can make. I'm just going to show you a couple of them really quick so you can see what those do. On this one, that's university. And if you know on the top, if you're going to these buildings are basically extra spots that you can use and place workers on. And you see there's a circle with a question mark there, meaning that any type of worker can be used in this, and the output of the location is an engineer. So you gain an engineer. And like this location here, it's a mine. It's any breaking with there, and the output is 1 yellow cube, which is the yellow cake, which is the very, very important uranium enriched resource, and it's by these little yellow cubes. This is the money over there that are used to create the bombs. So just place those back there. I hope I put them in the exact same spot. So if you place a worker in the construction spot, like so, you get to choose one of these as long as you have the money to pay for it. Now, at the very beginning, both the 2 and the 3, there's a slash mark where it's an engineer. So as you see here, I used a laborer. But if I had used an engineer for construction, I can choose either of these 2 cards, and I don't have to pay any money for them. They're absolutely free. So let's just say I decide to use the university. And if you notice, the university has a question mark up here, and the output is a scientist. Now, whenever you place a worker on the main board, at that point, after you place your card there on your spot, at that point, you can place any of your workers that you have available to you on any of the cards that you have in front of you, any number. So if you had like 5 open cards on your tableau, you could place 5 workers. So in this case, let's say I had a laborer available to me, I'd place that there, and as long as I didn't have all of the scientists from my own personal supply that I haven't activated yet, I would add a scientist to my group. So then I'd have another person. Normally at the beginning of the game, you start off with 4 laborers, and that's all you start off with. And you have to earn the other workers. And you can earn 4 more scientists and 4 more engineers that are available to you. However, there's an important mechanic that I'll explain right now, is that there are for each of these guys that are gray, and they're becoming laborers, scientists, and engineers, and these are contractors. And just like an independent contractor, you just get to take them, and you get to place them either on your if you earn them. Obviously, you have to like go through a university or or to gain them into your spot, but then you get to place them on the board either here or on your tableau, and they work just like anybody else. It's like you're basically paying them to work for you for a certain period of time, and when you do your retrieve worker action, they go back into the pool. But I'll explain that in just a few moments. So after you've taken that building, you just slide everything down like so, and then you add another card. In this case, it's a factory that if you put 2 engineers on there, it makes you 3 fighters and earns you 3 money. So that's a pretty good factory, actually. All right, other locations. The mines, pretty simple. You notice that there's an output here of 4 yellow cubes. Here is a 3 yellow cubes, but a circular yellow cube. The circular, anything with a circle around it, and there's one other spot that has that on the board, and that's right over here and has money. If you take this location by putting a worker there, you take the 3 yellow cubes yourself, but because there's a cube there with a circle on it, every other player gets a yellow cube as well. So, yes, it's cheap, you get 3 cubes, but you're also helping out everybody else. You notice this particular location gets 4 yellow cubes, but it costs you 5 money if you take that spot. And this one, in the end, you have to spend an engineer to do it, and it only earns you 2 yellow cubes. So you can see where you might weigh benefits and the negatives, deciding whether or not you want to help everybody else if you're going to take that spot. Moving on, the universities. Each one of these locations is open, except for this one costs 3 money. This one earns you 3 laborers. This one earns you an engineer. This one earns you a scientist. This last one, if you spend the 3 money, can earn you an engineer or a scientist. Factories, you place one here, you get 2 fighters, 2 bombers. Over here, you spend 3 yellow cubes and you get 5 money. You just place a worker there, you get 5 money, but everybody else gets 2. And here, if you spend an engineer or a scientist, you get 3 money. Now, if you'll notice, this is once again probably tough to see, but there is a red $ figure here. And what that does, and there's also a red $ figure up here on these last locations up here. You can see it right there as well. Whenever a red $ figure is taken, you take a 1 money chit and you place it in this ashtray up there. And as those are taken, you add more and more to that ashtray there. Now you might be wondering, why do you even have that? Well, as with any kind of game where you're slowly sliding the people and the buildings down in this way, the building that nobody wants will inexorably make it to the end there, and it'll just sit there and stagnate. If there is any money in this spot right here, and you take the first building, you gain that money and you get to take it immediately. So if you're going to be spending 2 money on this, but there's like 4 coins in here, you're making 2 coins just for taking it. So that's one of those mechanics that's really nice that they put in, just to make sure that there isn't just the crummy buildings waiting on the end and they never get taken. Airstrikes. This is probably one of the coolest things in the game. And when I read that there was actually like bombings and you're actually damaging each other while playing the game in a Euro game, I was pretty excited about it, actually. You just place a worker in that spot, and you do an airstrike. Now, as I said, on your board, there is this fighter and bomber track on the top. And so when you do an airstrike, you decide who you're going to attack. So let's just say, I had 4 fighters and 6 bombers. Now, the one thing about this is that you use up these resources. So I guess, it doesn't make a lot of sense that when you send out your fighters and bombers, they just get used up and they can't ever be used again. I guess you could say they're going on kamikaze runs. But you use fighters to kill other people's fighters. So say there's somebody you want to bomb, and they have 3 fighters. So you'd say, I'm going to use 3 of my fighters, you move it down to 1, and then they would reduce their fighters to 0, so they have no defense. And then you can send in your bombers to bomb them back to the Stone Age. And you can use up any number of bombers you want. And it should be noted that when you do an airstrike, you can attack everybody else if you so desire. You can say, I'm going to send 2 bombers to yellow, I'm going to send 1 bomber to blue, and I'm going to send 3 bombers to purple. And then you could use up all your bombers. Now, if they have any fighters, you can't actually bomb them. Now, what happens when you bomb somebody is, I'm just going to grab a couple of, and this is not accurate because I'm just going to use the same here, but say this was somebody, say you were green and you got bombed, and both of your buildings got bombed. Now, what happens is that you take one of these damage counters and you place it on the building that got bombed, meaning that it is now damaged. And if it gets bombed twice, these are double-sided, there's a 1 and a 2 on the back, and you place that there. Now, if there's any workers on there, they stay on the spot. They aren't considered to be killed or anything like that. They ran underneath and hid in the bomb shelters, but and they can be retrieved normally in that retrieve action that I'm going to be showing you in just a few moments. So, how do you fix this? Well, that's in this spot, the repair function. If you place on your turn, you place a worker there. It costs 5 coins, and you can see there's 3 wrenches underneath there, meaning you can fix up to 3 damage. So in this case, since there's 3 damage, if you took that spot, you'd remove these particular counters, and then they would be fixed, and you could actually use it. I love the airstrike location. I think that's so cool that a game that is worker placement actually has a way to actually damage and hurt each other directly. This is the Reactor and Enrichment. There are actual more reactors cards that you can get out of this deck, but this is the basic one that's on the board. You'll notice that if you spend, in this case, if you spend 2 yellow cake and a scientist, you get to raise your marker on the plutonium level, and these are the way to track how much of each one you have. So you'd take your little disc and you move it up 1. And this one, if you spend 3 money and 2 yellow cake and a scientist, you'd move up the uranium track. Now, that's important for when you make bombs, and I'll explain that in just 1 second. I'm going to say one other really cool thing about this game, the espionage track. If you place a worker on this spot, it costs 3 money to use it. You get to move up the espionage track, meaning that you have a spy. Now, what spies do for you is that, say, purple, let's just grab a card here at random. Let's say purple had a really cool this cool enrichment plant and that they had built, and green takes the spy, and you'll notice that there is 1 worker, 1 scientist used. So as soon as they take that, they're allowed to use 1 spy, and they go over to purple and they just place that on purple's building. Now purple has built this. They've spent their workers and money to build this, but now you get to reap the benefits. You send your worker over there, you pay the 4 money, you pay the 4 yellow cubes, and you get to increase your uranium by 2. So you go, oh, thank you very much. And now he sits there and uses up that spot until, once again, you use the retrieve action, the retrieve worker action. I love the espionage spot. It's such a wonderful way to mess with people. As you use this location over and over again, you get to move this up all the way up to 6, meaning that you can use up to 6 workers. If you keep using the espionage spot, you can use up to 6 workers on multiple people's other buildings. And not only do you get to reap the benefits, but you're actually like taking away spots from them and hurting them. So another really cool part of the game is that espionage location. Alright, so now you're probably wondering, how do you win the game? Well, the game is played to a certain number of victory points, and depending on the number of players. And the only way you can earn victory points is by building bombs. And the way to build a bomb is you first have to take a design bomb action. And as I said before, that takes a scientist and an engineer. And you notice up here there's this big deck of bombs, and there's these cards up here that you've probably been looking at wondering what they are. These are different bombs that you can make. When you take the design a bomb action, the person who takes the action looks at all these different bombs. And you notice that some are red, meaning that they're uranium bombs, and some are blue, meaning that they're plutonium bombs. And each one of these has a number of workers that it takes to build. So like when you take your normal action, then you're allowed to use and put workers on any one of your cards afterwards. That's how you build the bomb. So you can sit there and you can say, okay, well, this takes 2 scientists, 2 engineers, and 6 plutonium. And whereas like this uranium bomb, same deal, 2 scientists, 2 engineers, and it's 6 uranium. Now the points in the bottom are the number of points you earn for building the bomb. So now if you had built, the minion, then it's worth 30 points. Now, you'll notice over here, there's a little bomber icon, and it says $5. So at any time after you built the bomb, you can say, I'm going to put this on a bomber. As long as you have a bomber available on your tableau down here, you reduce your bombers by 1, and you place this little token on there, meaning that you have loaded this bomb and you are willing to use it. And you notice that's an extra 5 victory points. Now, the really cool thing here is plutonium bombs. You can see that there are 2 point totals on the bottom. Like this is 11 and this is 20. Now you're probably wondering, what does that mean? Well, after you've gone nuclear, if you will, you can do a test explosion. Now, you basically give up one of the bombs. Let's say you have this bomb and this bomb. You've made them. And so this one you can see is worth 8 and 13, so it's worth less. So you decide that you're going to blow up the Ay Caramba, and what happens is that you discard this. But, depending on the number of players, you get one of these markers. If you're the first person, you get the highest total number. I'm playing like a 5-player game, so we use all 5. But in this case, you would get a bonus points of 8 as long as you're the first person to explode a bomb. And you could take this. It's like bonus 8 points. And then, going forward, any other of these bombs that have the 2 totals in the bottom, you get the higher total. So this you blow this one up, but this one goes from 10 to 18. And this one goes from 11 to 20. And sometimes by doing that, you will actually just catapult yourself into having the higher victory points, and you win the game. Bombs are the only way you can earn victory points. So I should noted that when you take that action, the person who took the design bomb action takes one of the cards, says, I'm going to take this one. And then he takes them and hands them to the person on their left. And that person takes one, and that person takes one until it gets back to the last person. There's 6 of these cards. There's always one more than the number of players. So in a 5-player game, I have 6 cards. A 3-player game, you have 4 cards, so on and so forth. And there'll be 1 card left. Like, let's just say this is the card left. And the person who takes the design bomb action gets 2 cards as compared to everybody else. So there is a bonus taking design bomb action. Obviously, you get to choose which bomb you want, and you get another bomb that you can build later. It should be noted that you actually have to build the bomb to earn the points. This is just basically the blueprint, the design for the bomb. When you make the bomb, obviously you ratchet down your resources on the plutonium and uranium track over here, and you have to build those back up until you can make another bomb and hopefully win the game. Now, the last thing, like I've been referencing throughout this whole rules explanation, is the retrieve a worker action, which is probably one of the neater things. I'm just going to kind of throw some people out here just so you can kind of see how this works. So let's just say that we're playing this game and there's these workers out here, and I'm just going to throw some of another player out here, red. Now, when you get to a point in the game where either you don't want to place any more of your workers out there, or you've run out of them, you have to take a retrieve worker action. You can't pass. When you retrieve your workers, you go out and you take back all of your color. So green takes back all of their color. They take back whatever is on their board in front of them. So in this case, they take back this, and they take back their contractor. If they have a person that is working for in say the purple land, like this, they go over and they finally let purple have their spot back. And it doesn't matter who placed these contractors out here, those also return to the general supply. So even if red had been the person that had used these contractors and placed them out there, those go back, even if green wasn't the one who placed them on the board. So sometimes you will do a retrieve worker action just to free up spots because there's a ton of contractors out there using up the areas on the board. I really like the retrieve worker action because of the fact that it's actually very tactical in a way that you might be taking, like allowing yourself just a couple more turns of maybe not taking the best moves possible, but you have your workers out on spots that you know the other players really want. And by waiting and not doing it immediately, you're preventing them from being able to finish their plans and things like that. I hope that, that's a pretty good overview of all the different rules of the game. I hope that was very clear for you. I really like how all those different actions are very, very thematic and they tie in with the rest of the game. And I know that a lot of Euros have pasted on themes and stuff like that. And I guess technically you could come up with a theme that would work for this as well. But I really like the looks of this. I really like how all the spots just seem to make sense. And like I said, I just kind of I really enjoy the whole process of actually building the bomb. Kind of doing the whole Manhattan Project, like the game is called. But well, I like the game, so let me just get to the conclusion. I can tell you exactly what really shines for me. Alright, so that's how you play a Manhattan Project. So, I'm sure you got from my rules explanation, so you can kind of get the idea of how excited I was over the game. But let me go a little bit more in depth, and maybe you can garner from what I'm saying here, and you can kind of figure out, if it's going to be a good fit for you and your group. The worker placement mechanic has been used for many years now. I forget the name of the very first game ever that has it. It's some weird game with a bus or something. I don't even remember. But ever since that game, there have been several games that have used that main mechanism to varying degrees of success, and they've changed it up a little bit, and they've made it their own, and it is a favorite mechanism of mine. I don't know what it is about it. I think I like the idea of putting my worker on the spot, and then collecting the resources or taking the action, And one of my favorite games of all time, Dominant Species, admittedly they're action pawns, but, it is very much a worker placement game. You're taking your cylinder and you're placing it on a spot on the board. They aren't workers, for lack of a better term, but, they are just a marker that takes a spot that you eventually get to use in action. Now, that being said, this obviously has those workers. It has the three different kinds of workers: laborers, engineers, and scientists. And and as you could see, all of them were needed to be used for different things. And the more specialized, obviously the engineers and the scientists were more specialized, and they could do more than laborers. But you needed those four guys to start with before you had to walk before you could crawl. Now, crawl before you walk. Yeah, whatever. The game itself would have been, fun. Just because the theme is engaging. The whole process of collecting the cards and building up your little nation, and and then recruiting more workers and so on and so forth. But what made the game shine, and what I think makes the game a cut above what other games that I've played so far this year, is the fact that it takes a Euro and it adds in the amazing amount of conflict that I really enjoy between the all-out, just absolute, like, attacking, obviously. I mean, this is a game where you get to use bombers, and you get to bomb your opponent's buildings so they can't use them. I mean, I've never even, like, really heard of a Euro that is that conflict. I mean, that blatant about it. You know, it's like you are actually going and you're flying your bombers and you're blasting the heck out of the other person's nation. I mean, you expect to see that in a game with a bunch of dice and a war theme. And, and then there's, like, the more subtle ways of screwing with your neighbor. I mean, obviously the espionage isn't exactly subtle, but I mean, it's you're using up those person's buildings. And, and espionage is awesome. It's so much fun to, like, you watch as somebody, builds up this great little synergy of these buildings in front of them, and then you just march right in and you take over 2 or 3 of them, and you leave your workers there for an extended period of time, and so they have these things and they can't do anything about it until you do, that retrieve action on your turn. And this game is all about timing. It's all about trying to figure out is somebody going to use up all their workers before they do their retrieve? Are they going to do it earlier? And that's one of those things where also you kind of have to be on your toes when it's your turn. They're expecting you, to use up all your actions and then do a retrieve. But sometimes it's in your best interest to kind of mess with that and do it earlier than they would have expected, because that throws everything off kilter, and it puts you in like a more of a driving force, a more driving position. Now, and probably the best part of the game that really allows you to screw with your friends and screw with your opponents is the fact that there's that finite amount of workers that you have, and then you get those contractors, and those contractors are finite as well. And so if you start using those on your own buildings, mind you, I mean, when somebody else does a retrieve, they stay on yours. I mean, when you do a retrieve action, as I explained the rules, all of the contractors that are on the main board go back, no matter who put them on there. And your own go back from your own personal board. But if you have put the contractors on yours, nobody can touch those. They have to wait for you to give them back. And so you can shortchange the game. And not to mention, the whole purpose of this game is taking over spots on the board and strategically using up locations, not only to help yourself, but also just to take them out of the hands of the other players. And that can go on for round after round. I mean, as you place your worker down, and then you wait. Okay, well, no, I guess nobody's going to be able to use that spot. Nobody's going to have the real easy way to get yellow cake for a while, or nobody's really going to have the easy way to recruit an engineer for a while because I took that spot. I'm just going to leave that guy sitting there for 2, 3, maybe even 4 rounds before he actually comes up again. And I don't know how many times I played this game where it gets to my turn and I'm just like, I really want to do this, I really want to do this, and I really want to do this, and I can't do any of it because you jerks are taking all those spots. And it isn't that they did it by accident. In a lot of other worker placement games that I played, it's like you're taking spots and you're just kind of like, I ended up screwing up your problem, or I ended up screwing your plans. Well, I mean, that's cool, but I had no idea. I just did it because I wanted a good spot. In this game, my friends and I, we're purposely taking spots that we know the other players are going to want and need. And we're nailing them with them. And then because we just know it. And I love that screwage. I love that messing with it. Too many worker placement games are just 4 people sitting around a table with their own little world and their own little spot, and they're putting those pieces down, and it's just kind of a race to build the best engine. Now, those are fun games and I enjoy them, but this game takes that, and you have your own little world, but you have to watch out for somebody coming up and just messing with it completely. And this game is amazing in that regard. It has direct conflict in the Euro. And if you've watched my review of Down in Species, I mentioned that's how that game was so awesome. And this game is the exact same thing. It has direct conflict. I'm actually physically impeding my opponent's ability to win through my actions, instead of just kind of sort of maybe slowing them down a little bit. And I really, really like that. I think... And ultimately, what I think might be harmful for the game is that a lot of people aren't going to like that. They're not going to like that conflict. They're not going to want. They want to play the game, and they want to kind of play kid gloves with each other, and they want to have a friendly time. And I guess, and that's fine. I totally understand that, and I totally get that. But for my group, it's a bunch of guys that have known each other for couple of decades, and we are such good friends that we can take, nailing each other for a while and making fun of each other. And that's another part of this game that's really awesome, is that you really kind of start acting it out, and you start, you start giving your nation your own little, made up name, Kyrgyzstan or whatever, and the person who's using the spies a lot, you start calling them the Russians, and stuff like that. And it's just like the game kind of takes on a story and takes on a life of itself. And when you're done playing the game, win or lose, you're usually, as you're putting the game away, you're laughing and you're joking about different turns. And this is one of those games where, as we're putting the game away, to a fault, everybody who's sitting there talking always is talking about the turns that are, oh, in that turn when you had that spot and that spot, if I'd had one more action, I could have done this, and oh, and that move you made was really awesome when you bombed him, or it's like, oh man, you're totally taking that guy's buildings every single turn you could with espionage. That was so awesome, it was hilarious, and that's what makes a good game great. And this is a great game. So I highly recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. I really hope you go out and at least try it out. I mean, if a friend of yours got a copy or something like that, check it out and see what's going on. There's a small little expansion called the Nations expansion. A lot of online retailers have it. You can pick that up for $3-4. I didn't really show that to you in the rules explanation. It's a little card that you get that basically adds an extra little ability, and it's and you get to take on the role of the United States or Japan or France or what have you. And it's just an extra little ability that kind of adds to the theme. And I'd strongly suggest picking that up. Maybe you won't use it all the time, but it is kind of a neat little, fun little thing to play around with as well. So, well, that's the Manhattan Project from Minion Games. And like I said, give it a try. Or if I've convinced you, pick it up at your favorite retailer. And enjoy the heck out of it, because I know you will. Alright. Well, thank you as always for taking the time to watch one of my videos. If you have any questions or comments and want to point out a rules mistake that I made, I'm sure I made one or two, feel free to post those below. And I'll try to get back to any and all comments as soon as I possibly can. Alright. You have a great day. Thanks a lot for watching.